Alright, by now most of you probably already know that I will be taking another 3 weeks off. To make life more interesting, my septic tank has overflowed. At $250 a pump, I stretched my legs and took a walk around the neighborhood. To be honest, 75% of the neighbors are jerks, but the few I like, I would stop and have a chat with them. I mentioned my septic tank issue to a friend, Brian, who has been in this business for 11 years. He said, "It's not your tank, I bet your filter is clogged." I didn't know septic tanks had filters, but they do. Brian explained what I needed to do and then spent 20 minutes telling me what he found in the septic system. A particularly notable job was when he opened the lid to check the filter and found it filled with almost 30 condoms. He joked that maybe the homeowner should throw them in the trash next time. When he suddenly noticed the guy's face had turned pale, apparently in their 18 years of marriage, they had never used condoms. What was the outcome? Hell if I know. I cleaned the filter and he wrote me a check. Seriously, as I left, he was wearing a pair of kitchen gloves, putting all the condoms in a small bucket, and we were off. Well, this was just great, I thought, as Beth stormed into the living room screaming that the toilet had exploded. Apparently, it had. Knowing Beth wouldn't do such a thing, I cleaned up the bathroom and then went out to check the drain plug. As soon as I opened it, a flood rushed in, and I had to take a shower. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was wondering how much an emergency call would cost when Beth walked past me with a suitcase. She said, "I'm going to stay at my sister's until you fix this. Call me when it's done." I went back inside, took off my clothes, and just stood by the back door. To hell with it, I'm going to take a shower, and the water might as well flow through the backyard. As the water washed over me, I reflected on my life. Married for 18 years, a 17-year-old daughter working as a counselor at summer camp, saving every penny for college. Thinking about the growing distance between Beth and me. I seemed now more ignorant and clumsy than when we first got married, and sex had become a thing of the past. She's only 41, and she still looks good, maybe it's a woman thing. I read about the onset of early menopause at the doctor's office last month. Maybe that's it. Anyway, her attitude started to shift onto me, and the pain on her face when her mother left was something I couldn't bear. We planned to talk when she came home. I've reached my limit, and frankly, if she doesn't like it, I don't care. I'm tired of living in a toxic environment. After cleaning up, I decided to go to the bar, have one of those delicious burgers, maybe a few beers, and I'd make sure to use the restroom there if I needed to. As I was leaving, I saw Gus picking up his evening paper. A light bulb went off. Gus used to have a septic service, and he still had connections. Maybe he could find someone to help. I stopped, and we chatted for a few minutes before I brought up my issue. He laughed and said, "You want to save $250? Of course, I will. I bet the tank isn't full, I think your filter is clogged. All you have to do is clean it out. Tell you what, I'll come by after church tomorrow and show you how to fix it." I was so happy that I invited him and his wife to the bar. They spent the next 2 hours talking about the strange things they've fished out of septic pits. It turns out his wife, Mabel, was his dispatcher at work, and sometimes if there was nothing going on, she would give him a ride. One lady lost her wedding ring, and she paid to have the whole tank filtered looking for it, only to find it on a plant behind her counter. Another guy followed them to the dump, apparently thinking he was about to get caught, and flushed $80,000 worth of cocaine down the toilet. They did find the cocaine, and he got a long sentence. The next day, they came to my house at 2:30 in the afternoon. We found the lid and pulled it out. The filter was as clear as daylight. Gus had me watch the pipes as he pulled it out. He started grinning and said, "I found your problem, Chad, you might want to throw it in the trash next time." I looked at what he was holding in his hand. My filter was filled with condoms, 23 of them. Later, I found myself foolishly wondering how a pack of condoms had gotten into my septic system. Then I realized what had actually happened. There must have been something on my face because Gus and Mabel were silent for a moment. "I'm sure there's an explanation, Chad, maybe you've had visitors recently, or Amy had some friends over when you weren't around." "Really, Mabel, do you think I would have visitors who would do that so many times? Or that my 17-year-old daughter suddenly threw a party?" "No, there's only one explanation. They spent another 45 minutes consoling me before they left. After they left, I waited until they were gone, got some thick rubber gardening gloves, carefully collected the condoms, put them in a triple bag, then into a plastic container, and placed it in the small fridge on top of the fridge I bought. Then I went inside to think. A lot became clear. We were done, no discussion, no apologies, the marriage was a done deal. The only thing that kept me from pulling the trigger was wanting to know who it was. I didn't bother Beth, let her stay there for now. I needed to make a plan. I spent the whole day at the shop. Amy needed to be picked up the next day, and I had taken the day off. It was the first time I'd seen her in 7 weeks. She gave me a big hug and told me about some of her adventures at summer camp, arguing with 11-year-old girls who thought they were 20. Really, I'm getting old. It wasn't until we were almost home that she asked about her mom. I told her about the septic situation, so it was fixed. Yes, it was fixed. Does Mom know? No, I tried calling her last night and this morning. Remember, she was supposed to come with me to pick you up. We had planned a whole day of family activities. Amy took out her phone and called her aunt. Is Mom there? No, honey, your mom is at work. Oh, okay, then why does everyone say she's not there when I call? The thing is, Mom had better call me from the office phone and not her own within the next 20 minutes. If not, I'll have my dad drive me to see her, and if she's ignoring her own daughter over some stupid thing, then the little bird will sing to her dad. I know some things. 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, she called back, out of breath. Hi, honey, I'm so glad you're home. Yes, I realized I had something to deal with when you came out to catch the bus. I bet. Goodbye, Mom. She called me and blew up at me for how disrespectful I was. Well, who taught her? The pool will be drained by tomorrow. Amy will be at my parents' house tonight. If you're interested. I hung up the phone and looked at Amy. She sighed. So you found out. What will you do? You're about to graduate high school, you have a prom. You're likely going to end up a child of a single-parent family, no matter how old you are. The judge might let you choose who you want to live with. I will respect your decision. If it's your mom, just let me know you won't exclude me from your life. What do you think? I think you're mostly oblivious most of the time. Of course, I would choose you. I could never manipulate her like I can you. She's not even home with us much, I bet she wouldn't recognize me in a crowd. But what I really need to do now is get the taste of summer camp food out of my mouth. I would die for a decent pizza or a good burger. So if you want to get to know your only child, do it through my stomach. I took her to the local pizza place and watched her eat 3/4 of a large meat lover's pizza with extra cheese. She leaned back in her chair, burped, and asked me what I was going to do about her mom. She acted mature and tough, but I could see the little girl in her eyes. This is going to be tough for us. I held her hand and let me tell you, Andy, what my priorities are. First, I need to be absolutely certain that I handle the next few months properly. I need to figure out how to minimize the impact of the divorce on you. Right now, you are the most important person in my life. I want you to be as safe and happy as possible. A lot depends on your mom's reaction. I promise I will do my best to keep you out of all this, but Pumpkin, if what I suspect is true, my marriage to your mom is over. It was a surreal conversation, with our daughter, but I always asked her to be involved in important family decisions, since she was 14. Of course, there were some decisions she couldn't be involved in, but I tried to include her in everything else. When she was 15, we needed a car, and although Mom wanted a small sports car, she agreed with my choice and went with the SUV. I ended up driving it around the neighborhood with Tony and her friends, and Beth got her small car the following year. It was me who taught her to think before making decisions, to consider all sides before giving advice. It has benefited her greatly, making her a natural leader and confidant in her circle of friends. You need to figure out how to keep the house at least until I graduate, and then give it to her if it helps you financially. I would still say, the money will be there, right? I quickly reassured her, honey, your endowment is enough to get you through the first 3 years, even if your mom doesn't help. I will have enough time to find the money to pay for your last year of school. I give you my solemn promise. We went home, and I let her go pack and think. So far, I only want to know 2 things about her mom: when can we get a divorce, and who is she sleeping with? In the end, it was all quite simple. All the high-tech gadgets you can buy online are nothing compared to an old-fashioned camera trap. Well, perhaps I spoke too soon. The camera trap I borrowed from my brother is state-of-the-art. When activated, it takes a 30-second video and then continues to take photos. It gives you a timestamp and can be programmed to zoom when activated. They even have audio recording, but they are usually so far away from their subjects that they can hardly hear anything. It took a bit of brainstorming to figure out how to hide them, but with my brother's help, I built 2 birdhouses, each hiding a camera. I hung one on a tree that would be activated when someone drove up, and another aimed directly at the front door. I didn't need to see them doing disgusting things, it didn't matter anyway. She said something flattering about hanging birdhouses at the end of summer, and I told her it was to let them weather so that the birds would think they were a natural part of the yard. Of course, I messed up completely. How was I supposed to know how a bird chooses a nesting place? She just shrugged it off and ignored them. Here's how it worked. She worked at a company with a flexible schedule, so 2 to 3 times a week, she would take a 2-hour lunch break, making up for it with overtime or coming in early. Her boyfriend must have worked there too. She would get home 30 minutes earlier than him, grab a sandwich, and undress. He would show up about 30 minutes later, then get dressed and leave. She would go back to work, and he would kill time until he came back. Sometimes he would stay at my house, drinking 1 or 2 of my beers, homebrewed by a friend of mine. I was surprised I hadn't noticed sooner. Maybe Tony was right, maybe I really was dense. Damn childish, but when I found out, I put almost all of the beer in the shop's fridge, leaving just 1 or 2 bottles. They were old-fashioned bottles with ceramic caps and rubber gaskets, about 24 bottles in total. I would drink a quarter of the ones left in the house, then fill them with fresh urine, give them a good shake, and put them back. When I came home to find an empty bottle on the counter, I would smirk maniacally. I might have disgusted him, but did I really care? Once a week, I would open the septic tank lid and retrieve the condoms. They were quite busy, averaging 2 encounters per meeting. No wonder she had no passion for me. After 3 weeks of careful preparation, everything was ready. I wouldn't let Tony be there when it all went down. No one should see a parent humiliated the way I planned to be. I considered inviting the neighbors, but then changed my mind. Instead, I set up 2 cameras to start filming. Brian had an old portable stereo that used cassettes. I placed it next to my dresser, almost inconspicuous. I tried to arrange for the portable stereo to start playing just after they were undressed. The cassette was initially blank until it played the sounds I had recorded. I checked the speakers. The volume was loud. The sound of a shotgun and the cracking of wood. I bought an old door from Habitat and placed it in the woods, shooting it upon hearing the gunshot. When the gunshot sounded, they heard me scream. There was very little acting involved. I had a lot of pent-up anger, and I let it out. You lying bastard, the shotgun went off again. I'm going to blow his balls off and then shove this shotgun into your cheating face and pull the trigger until it clicks. It was me. I bet I've watched that scene many times, but I still can't help but laugh. They rushed out the front door, heading for their car. He was only wearing a white shirt, pants, jacket, and tie. The underwear he was holding, I later found on the bedroom floor. I walked around the house, approaching him. He screamed like a girl, jumping into his car. It was then that he noticed the gift I had left for him. I took 2 20-liter buckets, each filled with about 15 liters of septic liquid and some solids, then evenly distributed the condoms before the tape started playing. I placed them on the driver's seat. The fool didn't lock his car door, and in an unfamiliar neighborhood, it didn't stop me from kicking his ass. Beth ran out, screaming. She was wearing a white shirt, trying to tuck it into her bare chest, which was bouncing wildly. At the same time, she was trying to pull up her brown skirt. Obviously, I caught them before they started. Ori didn't bother to take them off, but she was wearing a white thong. I had never seen her in a thong before. Filling her car with condoms wasn't difficult. She even locked her car strictly at home, but I had the keys. She fumbled with the keys, and I walked towards her. Before I realized the door was unlocked, she jumped in, opened the car door, and tried to start the engine. About 15 seconds later, she realized. Her skirt was still lifted, and her white thong was no longer white. I stood there, taking pictures, laughing uncontrollably. I think I did something to her, she screamed at me, struggling to get out of the car. I slammed the door shut, almost hitting her leg. Don't even think about it, cover your ass, and don't come out. Better yet, keep going. I'm still opening the septic tank lid. I could put you in there and put the lid on. You might last an hour or two, dog paddling. But eventually, you'll get tired and slide underwater. Now I know all I have to do is change the filter, and I probably won't need to pump it for another 20 years, by which time all that will be left of you are a few big bones, and I doubt he'd suck them into his hose. The more I think about it, the more I like it. I took out my keychain and unlocked the door. She shifted into gear and backed out. She knocked over a neighbor's mailbox and spilled another. She sped out of our cul-de-sac at an astonishing rate. Hey! I shouted, knowing she couldn't hear me, this is a 40 km/h zone, slow your ass down. This is not a residential area, this is a community. Alright, I am a huge fan of Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor until I found out how twisted Bill was in real life and what a mess Richard turned into with his addictions. That line was from an old comedy album my father had. I can't remember who said it. I told Tony what I did, leaving out some details. When she came home from school, she was shocked that her old man could do something like that, but then she was impressed, and people wonder where I inherited my personality from. It's priceless. Aren't you upset about how I treated your mom? No, you didn't physically hurt her, and she kind of deserved it. I bet she'll remember today for a long time. Come on, you can help me pack her things, carefully, you've already avenged, so we carefully packed her clothes, cosmetics, and jewelry. When Tony found the sexy underwear, she took scissors and cut everything in half. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Mom wasn't answering her phone, she said on her way that she went to Aunt Gwen's house. I just talked to her, and I think she owes your mom a favor for covering up her little adventure. Anyway, Uncle Jack found out. I'll be right back. You've already targeted her, Dad, maybe we should consider changing the locks tomorrow. 3 hours later, she came back. Mom was desperate, saying over and over that it wasn't intentional. I think she really regrets her choices, and if you believe it, she wants to come home. I persuaded her to give you a few days to cool down. Aunt Gwen then asked me if I thought you could get over it and take her back. I just sneered, got in the car, and drove off. I was still in a state of complete numbness and asked to be notified at work. Gwen should come to pick her up and take the lead. I got temporary custody, even though I threatened to show everyone my tape. She objected to the divorce and asked the judge to arrange counseling. I was firmly against it, but my lawyer advised me to endure and cooperate. 8 sessions, to my surprise, I even enjoyed some of them. The lady we visited was around our age, quite attractive, well-proportioned, and not wearing a ring. In the first session, she asked us what we hoped to get out of these sessions. Beth spoke first. I want my husband and daughter back, I want to go home and rebuild our marriage. I maintained an indifferent expression, and then it was my turn. I'll tell you, it's a waste of your time, Miss Turner, but it's not, because no matter what the outcome, you'll still get paid. Don't worry, I'll do my best to stay calm. I will indeed do my best to participate, but I am not willing to marry Beth for anything in the world. She ruined everything, the hurt is too deep. What I expect to get from these sessions is your written opinion that this marriage is irretrievable. So, shall we begin, okay? I'm sorry you feel this way, Chad. I think, why are you apologizing, Miss Turner? We have to be honest here. If that's how I feel, I'm satisfied with my decision, why should it upset me? I think I caught her off guard. I mean, I'm here to help you find your way, talk about your difficulties, and see if we can resolve them. Miss Turner, I'm really not lost. I don't need help finding my way. My way is very clear, I can only see a set of footprints. I already have my solution. As far as I'm concerned, you're here to try to force me to accept an alternative that I find completely unattractive and impossible. I'm here to tell you that you're pissing into the wind. But hey, I'm paying for these sessions, I should at least get some entertainment value out of it. By all means, continue. I got her, Mr. Chad. You know, if I don't cooperate or participate, I have to report to the judge, which could be unfavorable to you. Am I being uncooperative? I think I've been very proactive. I've done most of the talking here, Miss Turner. I don't respond well to threats, whether veiled or otherwise. That's one of the reasons I'm recording these sessions. I keep my small tape recorder on the table all the time. Mr. Jones, you have no right to record these sessions. Why not? You can, and so can I. As the one paying the bill, I have the right to make sure my money is worth it. I won't let you do that now. I stood up, took my tape recorder, and left. We're done here, Miss Turner. Tomorrow, I will officially request another therapist. If I get a judge who believes this tape will play a significant role in his decision. I wish you a good evening. I left Beth and Miss Turner with their mouths open. My lawyer convinced the judge to assign another person, an old lady who didn't care that I was recording the proceedings. Things were going well. On several occasions, Beth begged for a second chance, and I said no. The only intense conversation happened when she tried to convince the counselor and me that it was just a fleeting affair, and she overreacted. She wanted to end it quickly. Wait. I was fully committed. I'm not sure how the timeline works in the world of cheaters. How long does an affair last, and is it less destructive to a marriage compared to a full-blown ongoing affair? I know for a fact that you had sex at least 41 times in 6 or 7 weeks. 41 times, that's not an affair. You two wouldn't have stopped until you were caught. 41 times, that takes a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. That's not an affair, Beth. It's a well-orchestrated action plan. You two were smart. If it weren't for the clogged sewer pipe, this could have gone on for years. But you got caught, very dramatically. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Beth went to her sister's house, and her sister wouldn't even let her in until she took off her clothes and threw them in the trash. Even after 5 showers, she still smelled. The repairman cleaned her car, but she had to replace the driver's seat. I don't know what happened to her lover, but about a week after Beth, he went to jail. I never showed anyone the video I took, but the news spread, and Brian heard about it and gave me a nickname, Condom. I think her sister leaked most of the story. A few weeks later, after drinking too much at a local bar, the sessions became quite boring. By the 4th week, we were just going through all the required activities. Beth was crying, and I was stoic. The counselor announced it at the 6th session, and 4 months later, Beth and I, at least on my side, became proud owners of a shiny new set of divorce decrees. In my opinion, the agreement was quite fair. In terms of child support, Beth had to pay half the mortgage on the house and continue contributing to Tony's college fund. There were only 10 payments left, so it was almost a draw. Once Tony graduated, we sold the house and split the money. Even in an economic downturn, we got a good price. I took my half and bought a house 5 houses away. The land was larger, with an extra bedroom, and even a backyard swimming pool, the only one in the community. It was a house in a hurry to sell, and I bought it for 2/3 of its actual value. I only took out a $20,000 loan, just like a car loan. I paid it off in 4 years. Tony did well in college. She started bringing her 2 roommates to her house during the holidays. I would find them summer jobs, and when they had a day off, they would lay by the pool as little as possible. In the end, I had a lot of college visitors, both male and female. I became an urban legend. Even at work, most people called me Condom. I was a department manager at a company that made high-end car parts, mainly for Mercedes and BMW, but also for Bentley and Land Rover. I earned as much as many other factory shift supervisors. I was good at my job, and my boss was satisfied with me. It wasn't until Tony's junior year of college that I really considered a relationship. I did have some girlfriends with benefits, but nothing serious. Then, Colette started working. She was asked to lead another department. We mainly talked about work, but once a month, the managers would go to a local bar to get some fresh air and relax. 3 months later, I asked her out, and she said yes. There was a spark, but we took our time. It took almost 4 months before we got closer. I felt that if she was going to be a part of my life, she needed to know my story, so I told her the whole story of why I got the nickname Condom. She was a bit surprised at first, then struggled to hide a smile. Soon, she laughed and then told me her story. She was also married like me, to someone very similar to my ex-wife. I just stared at her with my mouth open, and she looked nervous. Suddenly, I laughed. "I think I love you." She smiled back and said, "You should know better." A few months later, we decided we did. Tony loved her and understood when she couldn't bring her roommates the next summer. We needed a bedroom. Colette had a 16-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. Tony and her daughter Joy were bridesmaids, and her son Bill walked her down the aisle. A few months later, we settled into a family apartment. When Tony graduated from her alma mater, she showed great joy, and 2 years later, Bill got a tennis scholarship. Now we are older, and the children came to our 15th wedding anniversary. Tony is married with 2 children. Joy has 3 children, and Bill brought her husband and adopted daughter. The grandchildren are playing in the pool, the children are watching them, cooking. We sit there like honored guests. From where I sit, I can see a small piece of jewelry on the fence. Colette is a very talented artist, and she painted decorations on our mailbox, birdhouses, and fences. The one I'm looking at is very small, almost invisible. An inflated condom, surrounded by poison ivy. She said we didn't need it, as a reminder of what happened to us. As for what happened to Beth, who cares?